What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to explain you why I'm switching from the DJI Air 3 to the DJI Mavic 4 Pro, so stay tuned. Over the last months I've been traveling a lot through Southeast Asia, different countries, different locations, constantly chasing new spots and new perspectives. And every time I packed my gear, I kept asking myself the same question: what do I actually need and what's just nice to have? So because when you're traveling, you can't take everything with you. Every piece of gear has to justify its place in your backpack. And that's exactly why I wanted to test this properly. Two drones, the DJI Mavic 4 Pro and the DJI Air 3, not in the studio, not based on specs, but in real-world conditions. Cinematic shots, movement, travel situations, and real decisions as a creator. Because at the end of the day, it's not about which drone is better, it's about which drone actually makes more sense. When you arrive at a new location, you don't start thinking about camera specs. You look around, you try to understand the place, you start imagining shots, lines, movements, light, how everything connects. And that's where both drones actually really feel very similar. You unpack them, set them up, and within seconds you are flying. And honestly, that's one of the biggest advantages of both systems. Because when you're traveling, speed matters, simplicity matters. The DJI Air 3 especially feels very easy to use. It's lightweight, compact, and just does the job. You don't overthink it, you just fly. And for a lot of creators, that's exactly what you want. You stop, take it out, get your shot, and move on. But when you start looking a bit closer, reviewing your footage, taking your time, you begin to notice small differences. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious, but subtle changes in how the image behaves. Highlights, shadows, details. And this is where the Mavic slowly starts to separate itself. It gives you more control over light, more detail in the shadows, and just a bit more flexibility overall. At this point, you start asking yourself, do I actually need that extra level? Because in good lighting conditions, both drones look great, no question. But when the light gets more challenging, this is where things really starts to change. Sunset, backlight, high contrast scenes. This is where footage becomes more than just documentation. This is where it becomes cinematic. And this is also the moment where I started thinking differently, because these shots are not just memories. They can actually become assets. If you're creating content consistently, you're building a library over time. Footage that you can reuse or even sell. And that completely changes how you look at image quality, because suddenly it's not just about how it looks today, it's about how much you can do with it later. Clean highlights, strong dynamic range, flexibility in editing. These things matters a lot more if you want to use your footage beyond YouTube. And this is exactly where the Mavic gives you an advantage. Not because the Air 3 looks bad, but because the Mavic gives you more options, more control, more room to push your footage, more long-term value. And coming from FPV, I don't just think in static shots, I think in movement, in lines, in flow, energy. And that's where I really started to feel the difference. The Air 3 feels agile, quick, responsive, easy to throw into motion. But the Mavic feels more confident, more stable, more controlled. And especially in longer, more complex shots, that makes the difference. Because it gives you more trust. And when you trust your gear, you push your shots further, closer to objects, longer lines, more precise movement. And that's where things start to come together. But in the end of all these comes down to one question. Which drone would I actually take traveling? Because traveling is always a compromise. You want the best results, but you also want simplicity. You want quality, but you also want speed. The Air 3 is easy. It's light, it's compact, it's reliable. And for most people, it's more than enough. It fits perfectly into your traveling workflow. You can take it out, get the shot, pack it away. No friction. But then there's the other side, the moments where everything comes together, perfect light, perfect location, perfect timing. And in those moments, you want the best possible results. And this is where the Mavic makes more sense, not just as a drone, but as a tool for content, a tool for clients, and a tool for building a library over time. Because if you think long-term, your footage is not just content, it's value. And that's a different way of thinking. So for most people, I would recommend the DJI Air 3. Because it's simple, accessible, and extremely capable. But for my content, for the way I create, for the long-term value of my footage, I would choose the DJI Mavic 4 Pro. This is just one part of my journey, combining FPV, traveling, and cinematic flying. And there's a lot more coming, so stay tuned.